lat pracował pan jako scenarzysta seriali Wallander czy Inspektor Irene Hus i nagle postanowił pan zostać pisarzem. Po pierwsze dlaczego, a po drugie, no to jednak jest zupełnie inny gatunek literacki. Oczywiście konstrukcja pozostaje ta sama, ale to jednak jest zupełnie inny gatunek.
I mean, it started out when you're a screenwriter, you have to invent, you have to, find a new good material, though it's an adaptation. You actually have to write a new story because the things I wrote wasn't based on books. At the same time, you don't decide because it's for instance when it was Wallander, and I couldn't just change his music taste or he was listening to Jussi Björling, for instance. So when I've done that for a couple of years, it felt more and more frustrating. I wanted to, invent my own characters and do my own universe, for instance. So that's where I got the energy to try out, if I could.
O to właśnie chciałem spytać, bo przede wszystkim musiał pan stworzyć nowego, swojego własnego bohatera. Jak pan do niego dojrzewał? Jak powstał Fabian Risk?
Actually, it was I wanted to go in the other direction from Kurt Wallander because I've been working so much with Kurt Wallander, the old grumpy man that has lost his wife, lost almost his kids. He doesn't have any friends anymore. It's just work, whiskey, and Jussi Björling. So he was quite alone, and in the autumn of his life. And I wanted to have a younger, before Kurt Wallander, with a contemporary music taste, my own age, and someone who was a bit more naive, and he had the right feeling and intuition, but he was also a bit naive in the beginning, and that's what I wanted. And a more modern man who had his feelings outside, and he could cry if that was the case. So that's where I started.
Problemy, z którymi spotyka się Fabian Risk, to ksenofobia, szowinizm, rasizm, szczególnie w Motywie X to widać. Czy myśli pan, że literatura gatunkowa poprzez masowe dotarcie jest w stanie unaocznić ludziom te problemy bardziej niż na przykład, esej czy publicystyka i czy może zmienić świat tak naprawdę?
It's a good question. I don't know if it's more or less effective. When I write my stories, I don't think of it as being political. That's not my goal, to change the world in that. I'm just kind of putting out my finger and seeing which society am I living in now? Where does this take place? And actually for Motyw X, there wasn't a plan about the refugees and all the races. It just actually evolved in the story because they were searching for motive, and then they found this motive, and then they found out it's actually the wrong motive. But so this is the most political book I've ever written, but it wasn't a plan. And if it affects people, maybe I don't know. I think if you want to write a political book in a crime novel, it's a big risk that you draw it with too broad pencils. I mean that it's too obvious, everything. So I think if you're just a good author, a good storyteller, the world where it takes place will come there. The society where it takes place will be there, be in between the lines. And I think that's better, actually, than just, I have this, I want to tell the audience this, they should think left or right or up and down. So I just want to tell a good story.
Tym, co na pewno zapada w pamięć po przeczytaniu pana książek, a szczególnie Motywu X, to postać antagonisty. Pamiętamy zawsze protagonistę, oczywiście to jest świetna postać, ale najbardziej w pamięć zapada jednak antagonista, który jest trochę jak Hannibal Lecter, trochę jak Bateman z American Psycho. Jak wymyśla się takiego bohatera, jak może pan z nim de facto żyć?
I think, I have to be intrigued by the idea of a character, and I think as an author, you have to understand all your characters. You don't have to agree with them, but you have to understand them, and you have to know how they think. And in order to do that, I think you need to give a piece of yourself in all your characters. So even I think the antagonists have some piece of me in how they think and how they, reflect to the world. So I think that's my secret, that I give something of myself even into the characters that are disgusting in how they think. I think we all have a dark side inside ourselves.
Tworzy pan swoje powieści trochę jak serial, to znaczy nie zamyka pan tak naprawdę wszystkich wątków, przekonując nas, że powinniśmy sięgnąć po kolejny tom.
For me, when I started out writing about risk, I had this idea that I would try to do some of the things differently according to how is all the other authors doing it. And one thing was, I didn't want to make a contract with the reader that everything will always solve itself. The sun will shine in the end. Also, I didn't want to say how many books there will be in the series. And I think for this particular story here, Motyw X, I had this idea. Actually, it's two stories. It's Fabian Risk's own secret investigation around his colleague. And then there's the dice killer. And maybe another author would have, it's two different books, two different stories. But I wanted to have the stories at the same time because I thought it was much more exciting to actually have him investigating his colleague at the same time as they have to work together to solve the other case. And then I saw this will be a long story and it has to be two books. So that's why I decided to do it. And then there's some frustration from the readers and some others, they like it. So it's double.
Motyw X to powieść z literą X w tytule i kolejna część również będzie zawierała literę X. To jest X sposobów na śmierć. X set a deux.
The whole X thing started with this dice killer. Actually, in the second book already, in the 9th grave, there was the last chapter after the epilogue was chapter X. That was the first time we met him. And then I know everyone thought that this will be the killer for next book. But then I had 18 Below, that was another story, and then I had another chapter X in the end of that. So it started there, but with X Ways to Die. X, I'm finished with X. I mean, then X Ways to Die it will come to an end, and answers will come, I promise.